we're late. Welcome into Yankees Unloaded. So I saw somebody in the comments said, are they always late? We're usually somewhat late, but we appreciate you guys being here. Shouldn't be a long show. We know that all the spiel with Michael Kay and what he introduced, Jake, right, and his proposal about Fernando Tatis Jr. We'll talk about how Cody Bellinger's, in a way, he's intertwined into that. Jake, you know what I think about Cody Bellinger. I would love to have him back. We'll discuss that at length. We have our tenders and our non-tenders, right? Some players that we kept, some, I guess, somewhat of surprising decisions, right? Some players, Mark Leiter Jr., some guys are on their way out. We'll discuss and provide all of that to you guys. Oswaldo Cabrera obviously went out in the 2025 season, a brutal season-ending injury at the plate, signs a $1.2 million deal to avoid arbitration. And lastly, Jake, we thought of this the last second, I don't know how, but Corey Seager, right? There was at least the rumor that Texas is trying to shed money. I mean, same thing with San Diego, I guess, at this point, apparently. But Corey Seager, is he a fit for the Yankees? He obviously has dealt with injury over the years. You would assume he'd be a great fit offensively, at least when he's on the field. We'll talk about that. If you guys are just joining us for the first time, please be sure to like and subscribe. Really appreciate the support, as always. So, Jake, Fernando Tatis Jr., in our last episode, I talked to you, and I said there's just no way he would be traded from the Padres. And it wasn't necessarily about input and output. They pay a player a certain amount of money. He gives you a certain output. He's a great player. We all know that. He's a platinum glove winner out in right field. And this is with a position change. He can play shortstop. He can play second. Clearly can play right field. And I mentioned to you, he's the face of the Padres. When you go to San Diego and you decide, let's go to a Padres game, and you look around, and just like you see at Yankee Stadium, all you see is big number 99, Aaron Judge. It's all you see. It's the exact same premise in San Diego. He's the face of their franchise. And in a sport where we're now seeing deals $600, $700, $800 million for really players that are not much better than Fernando Tatis Jr., his contract looks very attractive to a lot of teams that aren't necessarily afraid to balloon their payroll. So, Jake, what's your thought right now that the premise that maybe a Cody Bellinger might balloon past $30 million and inch towards $40 million a year, right? It's a $15 million raise from last season, and you're talking about adding years to that deal as well, which raises risk for the Yankees. Do you consider Tatis Jr. a fit for this team? I mean, I think we both agree probably is. Is this practical at all?
I think it's very practical. I will say right now, everything that Michael Kay said on his show was spot on. We talked about Fernando Tatis Jr. as not being likely traded away, but with the new ownership, potentially, he could really be traded away. And I just feel like they're going to figure it out with Cody Bellinger. But to your point, if it hits honestly, if it goes well over 30 million, the Mets and the Dodgers and Toronto's involved, Cashman might just have to turn lemons into lemonade. And that, in my opinion, would be a pivot to going after a Fernando Tatis Jr., going after a Steven Kwan. They've shown us they're not going to overspend in free agency. Okay, they're just not going to do it. I don't feel like they overspent on Max Fried. We talked about it. It sounds weird because it's like you could get the guy for free without giving up draft picks, or you can give up draft picks and get the guy who isn't available in free agency. Normally, free agency is like, oh, I could get to keep my prospects and get better, but it's a weird thing where baseball operates differently than most other sports. And really, Gary, we've talked about it. It really has come down to the fact that the trade market is very lucrative now, and anyone could be had, it seems like at this point, except for maybe a handful of players, right? And I think Fernando Tatis Jr., there's a possibility. I'm not saying he's going to be a Yankee. That's not what I'm saying. But I think there's a possibility you call up Preller and be like, look, I'll give you Spencer Jones. I'll give you Jason Dominguez. I'll give you Clark Schmidt. I'll give you Luis Heel. I'll give you ERC. I mean, we have a lot of guys that we could offer for this player. I think my biggest thing is I'd want to protect Ben Rice, and the reason being is I think he's a part of the here and now. But the Yankees have a war chest of prospects. I didn't mention LaGrange. I didn't mention Hess. I didn't mention Cunningham, right? So there are options here. And I was saying this off air to you. A lot of people out there, it seems like anytime we're talking about a star and a team and going after said star, the Yankees are always that team that can't match other offers. And I just highly, highly, highly disagree. I push back on that every time because I say, look, just because, Anthony Volpe and Jason Dominguez aren't lighting the world on fire does not mean it should be an entire indictment on their farm system. I think their farm system, we've talked about how they've changed things. What it really comes down to, Gary, is this farm system is loaded and people aren't really paying attention that aren't paying attention, right? And so they could match any offer. It's a matter of would Cashman do it? But to be fair to the Yankees and Brian Cashman, how many blockbuster trades have actually gone down lately? Well, we were talking about this. The Dodgers waited until the last second to trade away Diego Cartaya, and we just had to look up who they got because their original number one overall prospect in their farm system, they let his value dry out like a rotten apple. And then you look at, the Yankees, and it's like they did just acquire Juan Soto not that long ago. And the Padres, they went out and they got Mason Miller. But aside from those two blockbuster deals, what has really been a blockbuster outside of those two?
There haven't been a ton. And I would say that I think a lot of Padres fans, if they were listening to this show, they would say, why would we want even any teams, really any team, not just the Yankees, why would we want their top prospects for this player? And the answer is that you wouldn't. As a fan, you would never want this. Just the same way, there were a lot of Padres fans, if we're being real, did you really need Michael King and what you got for Juan Soto? They didn't keep one of the best players in the game. Why? It wasn't because he's not a good player. It wasn't because he was a bad fit. No, he fit fine. But there's business reasons of why teams make decisions that they make. And that would be a business choice for Tatis to be traded, not just to us, to anybody. It would be the Padres saying, our business model, and the Padres lost a lot of money this year. And that, by the way, is with a monstrous attendance. The Padres fans are some of the best fans in the game. They just are. And for anyone who's obviously naive to that, you should travel into San Diego, obviously a fun trip to make, and go to a game and see what those games look like, feel the atmosphere, and see how many Tatis jerseys are running around the park. They're everywhere. But yet, people like Michael Kay, people like us, are intrigued by the player, but it's really more so the business side that Brian Cashman can take advantage of. A team that's struggling financially, and it may be that a player falls into your lap that otherwise shouldn't, right? We did the same thing with Giancarlo Stanton. The Miami Marlins gave him a $300 million deal, and a lot of people said, wow, I'm surprised they gave him that contract. Within a year, he was already spun to the New York Yankees for next to nothing, and it became, okay, you guys don't want this contract, we'll take it on, no problem. That would be what you're seeing with this, obviously adding on that we would be sending a ton of prospects to make this happen. So love the player, love the energy. I mean, Tatis would be a star, very clearly the type of personality, Jake, that would work out in New York. And I said the same thing about Juan Soto, right? There's certain guys that bring a certain energy to the park and get people on their feet. Tatis is one of those guys that you turn on SportsCenter, at least if we got 2002 SportsCenter, Tatis Jr. would be the type of player that you see every night, right? On top 10 plays, hitting home runs, hitting for the cycle. He's just a fun watch. So I don't expect him to be traded. More times than not, stars are not traded. They're just talked about a lot because a lot of people want him. But we all say the same thing about Paul Skeens. We say the same thing about Tatis. Jake, I think you bring up a good point about the value of our system. We have a good system. It's going to come down to whether or not Brian Cashman has the balls. If a player is available that we really want on this team, is he willing to pay the price? He wasn't willing to pay the price for Luis Castillo. Obviously, he was a top arm out on the market, and he said, not worth Anthony Volpe. And now we look in hindsight and see how ridiculous that was. All of our prospects aren't going to work out, but not all of them are going to fail either. So I don't think Tatis Jr. will be in pinstripes, but Jake, I would love to see it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I had the same stance. I just thought we should address it. Mainly, you thought we should address it because of like it's different when you and I are like answering a question in the comments section as opposed to Michael K doing a whole segment on it. So I thought that was definitely interesting. And there have been some MLB insiders out there that seem to believe this could actually happen. Not that him going to the Yankees, but just like in general, he could be traded. They've been running, kind of a loose cannon type of organization. We've given them a lot of credit, but no World Series rings have come from it. And now, like you mentioned, the financial aspect of it is starting to linger. And you have a lot of money on the books. It was the longest contract in MLB history at the time of signing it, back when he did, in I believe 2023. So, yeah, say what you will. I would never say never on this one, but I don't think it's going to happen right now.
And his deal is super valuable, by the way, on the market. I know a lot of people say you see over $300 million, but you need to look at the way the contract's structured. And
doesn't hit $36 million a year until he turns 30.
Yeah, and something that Michael K brought up on his show, I thought he did a great job of explaining the structure of the deal. The fact that he's making on average $24.5 million a year on this deal, it's hard to look at these contracts and see the big $340 million and say, oh, how many $300 million deals can we have? But you need to see the structure. And when the Yankees are saying we're not afraid of adding payroll, but we're not going to be able to give every player, Tucker $40 million, Bellinger $30 million, that's not the way they're going to do their business. But when you go and sign a player like this, and his contract structured in a way where he's making closer to $20 million in 2026, that should be a very attractive to not just the Yankees, but a lot of high spending contenders. So that's going to be honestly really fun to watch. I hope he's not traded because I don't like when stars are traded from somewhat contenders. And I view the Padres as a contender. I did think that they had a decent shot this year. Obviously, they just couldn't hit a lick towards the end of the season. But Jake, I wanted to bring this to you because there was a piece attached that we haven't discussed yet that Michael K brought up. And he mentioned, and obviously we know what happened with Trent Grisham. He takes the $22.5 million arbitration deal, right? And he opts into that. But my thing is that Cody Bellinger and how he's attached to this. And he mentioned the premise of if he swells past $30 million a year, maybe this is a pivot. Michael K mentioned this as a pivot move for the Yankees, not really a both of them type of move. How far past $30 million annually, like what type of contract are you seeing for Cody Bellinger where you would say enough's enough, I can't do this, right? Because Cody Bellinger, as K mentioned, it hasn't been smooth sailing in his career. There's been MVP years. There's been shoulder injuries, right? Dealing with a labrum during the World Series and Championship Series where he had down years and he's non-tendered by the Dodgers. The Chicago Cubs traded him away, took $5 million off the deal and traded him for Cody Poteet, Jake. Yeah. So we have to ask ourselves, is this as sure thing as we want it to be for what's probably going to be $250 million contract? It's a lot. So how far does this money have to go north on Bellinger where you say we have to look a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, if it gets to $40 million, I'm out.
$40 million annually. Isn't that crazy? We never would have thought. If you told me before the year Bellinger, I expected him back, right? And my prediction was we're going to pay him what we're paying him now, but he's going to want length attached to his deal. No longer a one with an opt-in. We're going to have to give him 5, 6, maybe even 7 years, a player on the other side of 30. And now we're starting to hear that this contract may go past $30 million a year in up to 6, 7, or 8 years. That's a big deal. That's big money.
I think his calculated market value on Spotrac is 6 years, $192.2 million.
Right.
I think that's fair. $32 million a year. I think it's fair. I think you would try to get him under the 35. I also think it does get to a point where the Yankees should probably they should probably be sitting there like, we want to see some desire to come back. We shouldn't have to be the highest bidder. And I would agree with that. I would say, look, like, if we're going to give you this much money, we want to see that you really want to be here. Because otherwise, we could go trade for Stephen Kwan tomorrow.
Is it fair of me to say, because I'm so conflicted about Cody Bellinger, because you know what I think about him, right? At the beginning of the season, there were people saying that I'm this homer, right? I was saying that Cody Bellinger is going to be this star in New York. I just love the player. And all that was true, except the homer part. Having said that, Jake, is there a way for me to say and admit Cody Bellinger is a must-have for the Yankees, but $35 million a year doesn't do my spending justice? Is that fair to say? That's how I feel about Cody Bellinger. I think he's a must-have, but when you're talking about paying $35 million a year, I don't see him in that lane, if that makes sense to you.
To be fair to you, you are judging it based on the Yankees' spending habits.
Correct.
If you ran the team, you wouldn't care.
I would not.
But having to play within the confines of what they have shown us, yeah, it can be a little tough. Like, to me, if you're at $40 million, I don't know if I would give $40 million to Cody Bellinger when he's 2 years older than Kyle Tucker. And Kyle Tucker should be around that $40 million range.
What did you say? Because you explained to me on our last episode, our payroll was at roughly $285 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, which I think it would probably be around 280 because they didn't bring back Leiter. Which, again,
perfect.
They can re-sign any guy they did a non-tender on.
Right.
I want to make that clear because they have done that before. Yes. Why did they non-tender somebody that was that important to the bullpen in Mark Leiter Jr.? Because I know it was a little bit of a shock to people. $3.5 million. Like, that's why. You know? If you want to come back to the Yankees, you're going to have to sign something cheaper than that. They're going to have to cut corners, and that's one of the decisions that they chose to make. So,
right. So we're operating under a budget, our own budget, which we all knew. Every single person that listens to our podcast already understands. The Yankees have their own cap. They're operating. Brian Cashman does the bet. He said today that he's a good spender of money, which is obviously funny in its own right. But it's clear as day when people say, why don't the Yankees get the big stars? Why don't they do this? It's because Brian Cashman is told what he can and cannot do. That's how it works. So having said that, when I'm looking up and I see Cody Bellinger, the most I'm willing to go, and this is just my opinion, is $30 million a year. If the contract swells even a dollar past that, I'm not doing it. And Cody Bellinger is a great player. $30 million is enough money a year for I would say, very good baseball player. Cody Bellinger is not in the upper echelon of baseball players in Major League Baseball today. He's just simply not. You're not going to the field and saying, oh, there's Shohei Ohtani and there's Cody Bellinger. You simply don't. There's levels to this. So I just think when I'm going to be paying $35 million, which is at least a conversation that the Mets or some other organization in this game would be willing to go there, maybe a Toronto, I've heard that as well. I don't go that deep for Cody Bellinger. And when you're Brian Cashman, you have to say, if I'm operating a tight ship and they're telling me how much money I'm allowed to spend, we have to look at these players from an annual basis. How much money am I paying these players? And what else can I do to make this team better? What else can I do to not just maintain the roster, but improve the roster? Jake, you said you really want Amai, right? You mentioned some Japanese talent. How am I going to bring in some Japanese talent if I spend probably $5 to $10 million than I should have to for an asset after already accidentally getting an outfielder to agree to a deal, right? When you're saying, oh, now I'm paying Trent Grisham $22 million. If you're paying Cody Bellinger and Trent Grisham close to $70 million between the two of them, I have a hard time believing a team that has a cap on their budget is going to field a great team that becomes a winner. That's difficult for me to swallow. So I love Cody Bellinger on this roster. I want him back here. And I believe he'll take less money to become a Yankee, but that deal has to be close, at least somewhat close, to the highest bid.
Yeah, I want to run something by you. Alex Bregman.
Okay.
I've never gone off this train. Okay.
You haven't.
And baseball and football free agency is a lot different. Because typically, football free agency, there's so many players and there's schemes. And there's certain guys that won't even be on your list because, and same thing with the NBA. NBA and baseball are very similar in that aspect, is that you have a bunch of guys, you want big time players, you're kind of talking to everybody and seeing who you can bring in. I'm not saying that there's not strategy, but football, like that edge defender that's going to sign with one team might not even be a scheme fit sometimes. Like, you know what I mean? And then you find that out throughout the year. They're like, oh, yeah, they were a scheme fit. So you oftentimes will see that there's only a few teams that are interested in a guy that's really good because he's only a scheme fit for a few teams. In the MLB, really, the only teams that are fighting for a player, it's either a small market team that is willing to go out and overpay to all hell because they want him to be the face, and it's probably a B-plus player, or it's a bunch of primary teams that are willing to spend top dollar.
Right.
So Alex Bregman is interesting because people will look at that $40 million AAV, and I'll tell you right now, he's not getting $40 million. He's going to get
probably
under
safer
30
to say
million.
length. Yeah, I would probably say safe to say on Bregman, he got $40 million, and this is fair. By the way, I think that was a fair contract. It's okay to spend $10 million inflated on a player if you only have to pay him for 1 year. That's exactly what Boston did. And if you told me that Alex Bregman could sign with the New York Yankees on a 3-year contract, right? He'll be essentially in his prime for the next 3 years. If we could only give him a 3-year deal, I'd be willing to pay him $35 million a year. But if we're going 4, 5, maybe even 6 years on Bregman, which I expect him to get, he's a great player. Jake, you've been talking about him since we started this show, and just how good that fit is. I know some people bring up his inability to hit at Yankee Stadium. I tend to give our pitching staff
this year.
He didn't have an issue this year, and I just tend to give our pitching staff over the years some credit as well for why he didn't hit well against us. But having said that, if I'm going 4 or 5 years, this is also part of the reason why I didn't want Ryan McMahon. It's not really personal about him. It's about what comes next and who can be on this team. Ryan McMahon's not going to be on the roster if you've got an Alex Bregman. So the Yankees are a little light in the infield. It seems like they're in a bind right now. You just spent $22 million on an outfielder who's now retained, and another player that might balloon past $30 million, who also happens to be in the outfield. You've already got Aaron Judge in your outfield. And your top 2 prospects are Spencer Jones and who just was in Jason Dominguez, both outfielders. So there's a lot to be had here. I know there were people on Twitter, Jake, saying this situation seems to be teeing up for a major trade to go get infielders, so to go get starting pitching. And I would tend to agree with that. But there's a lot here. And I do see some people in the comment section mentioning if the Yankees are going to go to $32, $34 million on a Cody Bellinger, why not just go 35, 36 on a Kyle Tucker, who's the younger player and a more proven, I guess you can say, a more proven asset in this league? Why not? I mean, you know what I think about Kyle Tucker. I want to have both of them, but we know that that's not going to happen. I'll assume Tucker won't happen. Get me Cody Bellinger, $30 million a year.
And would you take Bregman?
Well, Bregman's going to push, I would assume, into the 25 to 30 million annual mark. If we signed Bellinger and him, that would add $60 million to our books. That's actually what we're hearing from a lot of writers and reporters, which is that the Yankees are expected to float into the 320 to 340 million dollar mark. They did that in 2024. They were around that number. Now, that would essentially mean that the Yankees are going to add a third baseman. They get much better already. I mean, let's be real. And they also bring in a player that was their second best asset in 2025. That's a great thing. That's great. It also allows them to trade their prospects. So would I do it? Absolutely. But it also completely eliminates any opportunity for Imai, right, to go even trade for a player like Sandy Alcantara, who...
I'm going to push back on that. You want to hear something?
Why? I would love to know.
This is actually a hidden thing that makes Alex Bregman such a benefit. You ready for
this?
Oh,
please tell me. I hope you shock me here.
$40 million last year. Did you know $20 million of that was deferred money?
So do you think that Alex Bregman would be enticed by deferred contract?
I do.
Okay.
So he's got deferred $20 million. He only was paid $20 million last year.
Okay.
He's going to get deferred payments until, and I'll tell you right now. Let's see. Let's bring it up. So Alex Bregman is going to get $2 million every year from the time he's 41 years old to 50 years old. What if he just was like, I'll add another $2 million to that, or I'll add another $5 million to that, right? I honestly think a guy who's already shown the interest in taking a deferred contract would be interested in another. And the Yankees have any yet history to dip their toe into this. They have not done it yet. It's the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Red Sox. So, what if Brian Cashman's having his little whatever conversation with Scott Boras, and they're talking deferred money, and they're saying, how about this? We'll get Cody Bellinger. We're also going to take Alex Bregman off your hands. And we're going to give him that deferred contract because we also want to go out and get Imai. Think about how much better that makes the Yankees. And
people would be like, Yankees a lot better. I mean,
what are we going to do with Ryan McMahon? I don't give a rip. I do not care. Ryan McMahon can go wherever he wants to go. If
I would say the priority would be to trade him.
But also you could use him as a platoon as well. I'm not saying I would.
Platoon with who? Platoon with who?
I'm not saying I would. Well, here's the deal. Because Bregman can play shortstop and second as well. So if you wanted to put him in, I'm not saying I would do this, but there are ways to get creative.
Yeah, I mean, you could get creative. I don't think Ryan McMahon is a good enough baseball player
I don't either.
Move Alex Bregman to another position, even temporarily. With all due respect.
No,
Alex
I agree.
Bregman is a really good baseball player.
It doesn't matter. It shouldn't hold you back from getting Alex Bregman and Cody Bellinger. What have I said, Gary? These two guys, like getting Alex Bregman is like having another Cody Bellinger. You just have a guy that has power, that has every club in the bag, great defender, contact bat, can, actually steal bases, hustles out, ground balls. That's the type of guy I want. That's the type of guy I'm willing to spend money on. Simply put. So
he's projected to strike out, by the way, because we did talk about Steven Kwan at the very beginning of this offseason. And again, guys, thank you for watching those episodes. Thank you guys for all the likes, all the subscribers. So thank you guys for being here. We discussed the premise of Steven Kwan joining this roster. Now, you look at his stats on the outside and you go, this is not really that impressive, right? You get 280, right? Yeah, you're not striking out, but the defense is great. But then we're like, well, that's actually what that's the beauty of it. That's what the Yankees weren't good at. Alex Bregman's projected to strike out 74 times in 2026. If you look at Baseball Reference, 74 times. That's essentially the same number I told you guys about Kyle Tucker. He's going to strike out anywhere from 70 to 90 times per season in almost 600 plate appearances. It's a contact-first player and a player who can defend. Kyle Tucker can defend, Cody Bellinger can defend, Alex Bregman can defend. And when you look at the positions of weakness for the Yankees, in the playoffs, I thought Ryan McMahon did a good job. But when you're talking about over the course of the regular season, the past 3 to 4 seasons, including the postseason, Ryan McMahon has been underwhelming and probably not a good enough player to be a player in a corner position, in a position that important for a title contender. I don't think it's good enough. And will the Yankees do this? I haven't heard any rumblings of it. I haven't. I would love it, right? We heard some Corey Seager rumblings. We'll talk about that as well. But I think this plan that you have, Jake, about Bregman, about Bellinger, and sort of putting that together, I feel like this would have more legs if the Grisham situation didn't happen. And I don't want to try to use it. I don't want to use it as an excuse because it shouldn't be. But I think they will use it as an excuse, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it got me excited because I don't think it's ever really been talked about. Bregman didn't get $40 million last year. You got $20 million, and $20 million of that was deferred. And I feel like the Yankees need to start using that. Because here's my thing, okay? You have to get a player to agree to have deferred contract. You can't just be like, we're deferring your money. The hell? Doesn't work that way. Can you imagine that? You go up, you pull up at your Office Max or some shit, and they're like, yeah, we're deferring your payments until 10 years away. And it's like, but we're not paying you until 10 years later.
Do you think everyday Americans would agree to deferred contracts if they actually got paid more for their job? So you work at Office Max, you get paid $32,000 a year. Instead of getting paid that $32,000 a year, you agree to essentially take on $60,000, but we'll pay you the other $30,000 in 2031. Would you take that deal? I probably would.
I think people would. The nature of the business, of course. Like if you're, you know what I mean? If you're at a you're working at a Fortune 500 company and you're like, somebody big in the company, you're not going to take like 60,000 and be like, yeah, I'll take the other 60,000 in 2031. You know what I mean?
They'll give you the stock options. That's how a business normally does the stuff. But
yeah,
it is interesting, the premise of deferring contracts, because I know the Dodgers, people act like the Dodgers are the only team that's legally allowed to do this. We're allowed to do it too. And I do think it helps, as you mentioned, that he's already done it. He's done it with Boston. So why wouldn't he be willing to do it with not just us, but anybody else? Any other contender?
Why are they not doing it over anybody? They're the rich guy that complains about money. So why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? It makes no sense. So let's talk about this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You have Aaron Judge, you have, Garrett Cole, Giancarlo Stanton, you have guys that are old or getting up there.
Yeah, they're getting up there.
This is the time to do it. This is the time. There is not a better team in the entire league that is a candidate to start pushing for deferred contracts. There's no other team in the league besides the Yankees that should be more inclined to push for this.
Yeah,
and
like deals like Tatis Jr. Tatis
Yeah.
Jr. is making $20 million in 2026. That eventually balloons to $36 million. But that $20 million contract is the number that you're looking for to be added to the payroll. That's far more valuable at the beginning of the contract. The Yankees should be looking at stuff like this. And I hope
100%.
Brian Cashman, not necessarily that he's listening to our show, although he did admit today while he was laying in his sleeping bag that he does survey Twitter, which I thought was ironic.
And he called a meme a mem. Did you hear that?
No. Did he really call it a mem?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, they're going to mem me.
There's nothing about him that's relatable. He's like, what's his name? The owner of Facebook.
Yeah,
To me, he just gives me Facebook vibes.
Yeah, he's just out there, man. I don't know. And I didn't know that this was going to take such a turn to Alex Bregman. Our show just evolves. Our show is an amoeba. It's always changing, its form.
Scott Ross, by the way, says that Ryan McMahon is untradeable. He said that's why it's such a stupid trade. Well, Brian Cashman wanted him, so maybe there's another team out there. I don't think Ryan McMahon's a bad baseball player.
He's not untradeable. He played way too well in the postseason that a team won't at least consider bringing him in. He's not untradeable.
I would agree with you. I would definitely agree with you.
I push back on that to an extent because also, I mean, look at how many times we see. How many times have you seen Luis Robert trade interest? He's terrible. He is awful. He is an awful hitter. He's a good defender. He's a terrible hitter. He has some pop. No, he doesn't.
They said we were interested in Robert. We didn't even know how to pronounce his name for about half the year. And again, this is no disrespect to him. He's a career .233 hitter who's a bad defender who's probably should be a DH.
Well, his defense got better this year, apparently.
It did get better, and he's also 28, so that's sort of the attractive part of the player. He hasn't been good since 2023, and I mean, that's even saying something. He really was good in 2022, and yet there was trade interest on this player. Ryan McMahon has done much more than this player in the short term. As you mentioned, he played well in October. He's probably movable. I would agree with you. I think he's movable.
Is.
Yeah. So we'll see, Scott. We will see. I want to get to a couple of these super chats.
You might have to attach a prospect or two, but guess what? That's the time to attach prospects that you know are never going to be in the big leagues, and you're going to lose in the Rule 5.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
That's what you do. That's how you do it. I mean, the Yankees have been bad at this because they keep losing guys in the Rule 5, but there you go. That's what you do. You attach prospects that'll be Rule 5 eligible to Ryan McMahon, and now all of a sudden Ryan McMahon is not just, a used video game at GameStop. Ryan McMahon is the used video game and the used console.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a really good move for the Yankees to get better in their infield. I don't think it's good enough. I see what's attractive about having Jazz Chisholm in the infield, what he's good at, but we also know what's bad about it, right? First base, I think we've got first base locked and loaded, right? I think that's Ben Rice. You just leave it alone unless, of course, there's a major upgrade to be had, a Skeens, a player that's a game changer. You leave that over there at first base. You need to get better at shortstop. You need to get better at third base. And, of course, they need to find a way to maintain the talent they have in the outfield. So, obviously, we've got Mr. Padres Burner, who's furious about the idea of other teams wanting good baseball players on their team. So thank you for the two, obviously, backhandedly supporting our channel. He says, laughing his ass off, Tatis, shut your female dog butt up. Y'all got no recent rings. I mean, I'm not here to make fun of the Padres because obviously that's people's first inclination to do, but neither of us have won a championship in a very, very long time. So,
I just think it's funny. People are donating and saying, shut your bitch ass up.
Yeah.
That never gets old. It's actually kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you for it. We do appreciate you being here regardless. Dan Conforti, thank you for the 5. Says, if we get Tatis Jr., Okamoto, Imai, and Edwin Diaz, does that put us over the top? I would also shop Jazz, Volpe, McMahon, and Wells. Does it put us over the top? I mean, I would say if we got that deal, if we got those deals done, I wouldn't say it will get us over the top. I would say it could. That's what I would say. I still wouldn't think we were favorites. I would say we were favorites in the AL. That's what I would agree with. But you still have a lot of work to do to overcome the Dodgers and what they've built. And we just expect the Dodgers every single year. Jake, I mentioned this when we lost to them in the World Series. They're going to get better the next year. And we had a World Series, honestly, one of the best World Series we've watched. I mean, Toronto was amazing to watch. It was a great World Series. The Dodgers were awesome. They were good, and I expect them to get better. So we need to find a way to get back to the World Series. I would love, Jake, how happy would you be on that offseason? How about this?
I'd be very happy, but can I get a starting pitcher too? Like, I know I sound like a spoiled kid.
Well, Imai's in there.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally overlooked that. Okay.
That's why I thought you would be so happy. So let's do this.
Oh,
Jake.
my God. If we had 2 Japanese players and got Tatis Jr., I don't need Edwin Diaz.
Can I ask you this?
I'm over the moon if I get those 3.
How about this? Because I would say Tatis Jr., I would bet my last dollar it won't happen. I could always be wrong. I don't think he'll be traded. Not just to us, to anybody. How about we replace Tatis Jr. off this list and replace him with Alex Bregman on a deferred contract, heavily? Alex Bregman,
I'd be so
Okamoto, Imai, and I would even remove Edwin Diaz from that conversation. Just those 3 and bring in just some helpers in the bullpen. We've already got our closer, right? The bullpen still, after most likely losing Weaver, right? Those guys will be gone, Leiter Jr. I think with what we have in the room, it's not a perfect bullpen. I think there's enough in our bullpen at closer and what we have in the 8th and even the 7th inning. I think there's enough for us to be okay. I think it's more so about our rotation getting healthy, adding Amai to that rotation. Get Edwin Diaz out of there. He's going to get big money. I'm not willing to spend that type of money on a reliever. And going out and going to make sure you're getting Alex Bregman at third base, I think that would be an amazing offseason. I'd be happy with that.
So outfield at that point, you're just rolling with Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez.
That would be correct. Yeah. If you ensure me I'm getting much better at third base and much better in my rotation with Garrett Cole coming back to that rotation afterwards as well, I do that. I think that's my play.
That deferred contract, it really does change the entire game at that point. I mean, I really think that's what the Yankees should do. I think they should get. I mean, I love Okamoto, but I think I would go Bregman, Bellinger, Imai. And if I could add another guy, it would be Devin Williams. Because I love
Bellinger.
Devin Williams.
Bellinger definitely won't be. If we went Bregman and Imai, then someone's going to be out there. Between Bregman, Bellinger, and Imai, they're not getting all three. That's my opinion. I don't think it happens.
Yeah, I don't think they would. I think they're getting Bellinger, Imai, maybe Okamoto, but I think it's going to be Bellinger, Imai. I think they bring back Rosario. And I don't know. I have a weird feeling. I would not rule them out of a Devin Williams sweepstakes. I really wouldn't. He really liked it there. He was at the Knicks game with Judge and like recently. I thought that was interesting. I don't know. I don't get the feeling that he is done with New York. I liked how he explained it too. He's like, I kind of got the whole experience where I was booed at the beginning, rightfully so, and he made that clear. He's not like complaining. He wasn't Joey Gallo saying, "Oh my God, woe is me. I did everything I could for this city." No, like he understood. And then he said, at the end, he's like, the last time I stepped off the mound, he's like, I got a standing ovation. So I feel like there's something there. And then he mentioned the history and what it meant, the weight of the pinstripes. I could see him wanting to come back. I really could. Plus, working with Matt Blake, I could see that. But I'm telling you, I do believe it's going to be Bellinger and Imai. Imai feels so much like a Yankee because he's anti-Dodgers. I'm not saying he's anti the LA Dodgers. I'm saying he's anti just joining a team that's already on top.
That goes for the
Dodgers down.
Yeah, that goes for any team. Honestly, joining any other team in baseball would be considered the anti-Dodgers thing to do. And I don't have any problem with what the Dodgers are doing in any way.
No.
But having said that, if he joined the Blue Jays or if he joined the Yankees, you're trying to build something else. Okay, you guys are at the mountaintop. I don't want to join at the mountaintop. I'm going to put somebody else on top of the mountain. That's what I'm going to do. And there's a difference in that decision. So we'll see what he ultimately decides. I'm not sure exactly to what dollar amount that's going to be. But, yeah, I think we discussed that as long as we probably should. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about before we play some video games? What's up?
Yeah, we should honestly just leave it at that. We have plenty of stuff we could talk about, but you know what? I like that. I like leaving it alone, keeping it the way it was. And, I didn't see any voicemails, when we started. I can check now.
That's fine. It's a Friday night. It's almost Thanksgiving, by the way.
Yeah.
And your guy in 1 week's time is going to be a 32-year-old man. So I'm entering my prime. If Brian Cashman needs I'll play the Jerry Harrison Jr. role. I'll go play backup left field.
Entering your prime? You mean exiting?
I'm exiting my prime. Yeah.
No. 33 is the
think
exit.
about that.
33
If I was signed right now, there would be people saying, "Oh, he's on the wrong side of 30." Isn't that crazy? You're 32 years old and people talk about you like you're a geezer in basketball, baseball, this stuff. It's pretty crazy. Unless you play quarterback, right? Unless you play quarterback or you're like a star in the NBA, they treat you like you're dead and gone. So, yeah. Oh, Kyle Malay, Mr. Buzz Lightyear said he sent a voicemail, so don't cut him short.
Oh, there we go. Mr. Buzz Lightyear. Let's see. There he is. Ninja Hot Dog also slid in there.
Oh, of course. Ninja, welcome back. Nicolas Cage to play John Madden.
What?
Wow. Haven't seen Nicolas Cage in a minute.
By the way, I wanted to address something real quick before we get to voicemails.
Yeah, what's up?
Because I thought this was hilarious. There has not been a moment in this entire channel's history we've been clickbait. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if you have an issue with our title. I don't care if you have an issue with our thumbnail. If we're giving you 45 minutes of a show during the dead part of the season, or 3 hours, it's not clickbait. That's not the definition of clickbait.
Honestly, I don't really care if it was clickbait or not. He clicked it. So welcome in, my friend. Really appreciate it. Obviously, I'm sure your TikTok brain is already dead and gone. You're probably on Netflix by now, but we do appreciate you having been here for about 12 seconds of your night. So we do appreciate that. Hopefully you liked the video before you left. So thank you for being here. Jake, let Kyle tell us what's on his mind.
Sounds good. Buzz Lightyear.
Hey guys, Kyle Malay here. I wouldn't mind Tatis or Corey Seager, either one of them. They're a whole lot better than Anthony Volpe. You can always put Tatis back at shortstop, but I'm not sure
There it is.
what you would think about that. But I'm just glad that they didn't give a contract to Mark Leiter Jr.
That's fair.
He did not deserve it. But and then Hal is supposed to talk on Monday. He finally came out of hiding. Yay! But,
That'll be fun.
Yeah,
That just put me to sleep.
he's not gonna say, I'm trying to stay under 300 million. There's absolutely no way you're staying under 300 million. You're close to it right now, and you don't even have your team set yet. But yeah, tell me what you think, and hopefully we can all have a good night, and hopefully the Yankees make something happen soon. But I really think they're gonna do something big this off season. In my dreams, probably. But yeah, let's all have a good night and go Yankees.
Well, we appreciate that, Kyle. Yeah, I don't feel that way. Gary knows I started off, I was very optimistic. I thought the Yankees were going to go out and get Ohtani at the deadline that one year that we were doing live streams on my Rams channel.
Yeah, I don't know what I told you about that, but
you said, really? Like, you looked at me like I was like an expert, and you're like, oh, okay. Like you were like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. You never once made me feel like I was a clown for it, which I appreciate.
No, which I definitely, yeah.
But in my heart of hearts, I actually thought with Judge out, they were like, fuck it, let's go Shohei Ohtani. He's going to be available. Let's have him for, even if it's half a year. You know, I actually thought that they would consider going after him.
Brian Cashman wouldn't have traded Anthony Volpe when he was a top prospect for Shohei Ohtani.
Your mom's wrong, because I have stopped always dreaming. That's my point.
No, his dream has ended. He's woken up from his slumber. So
Imai and Bellinger isn't a dream. It should be a reality. It's not crazy. If a dream would be getting Skubal, would be getting Bregman, would be getting Bellinger, and by the way, let's throw in Okamoto for shits and gigs. Like, that would be a dream.
Yeah, especially when you see how the Dodgers move, I think it's a little ridiculous for people to look at the free agency market and be like, oh, you think you're playing MLB The Show? You're playing this video game? Well, there is a team already on the market today that does move this way. You would never, ever turn on a TV and see the roster that the Dodgers are playing with today and say, you know what this team needs? Kyle Tucker. They're going to be out there as a top suitor. Do you know what this team needs? Juan Soto. They were a top suitor for Juan Soto. Guys, it's just talent. It's just baseball. And when there's players available and all you've got to give them is money to come play for your team, I think we're in our right mind asking and wanting for these players to join this team. Alex Bregman, Cody Bellinger, these are good baseball players that I want on this roster. I really see a fit here. I see a fit not just monetarily with Imai, but with his mind, his mentality, what he could do in pinstripes, and where he can send us to become winners. So we'll see, of course, what they do. I'm very curious, as Kyle mentioned, to see what Hal Steinbrenner has to say. I know he hasn't spoke in a very long time, and we're not sure where he's been, but hopefully he adds some positive insight to an expected aggressive offseason, because what's mentioned here from Slim Lewis, Slim, welcome back with the 5, so thank you for the support, really kind of wraps a bow on my thought here. It says, how do they afford Tatis's contract if they're so close to Howe's BS salary cap? Well, right now, if they're at 280, roughly $280 million, you would assume they're going to put on about 15 to 20, maybe up to $30 million on the payroll. If you sign a Fernando Tatis Jr., that's the end of your offseason as far as bringing money inbound, roughly. But writers, baseball writers all over the place right now are projecting their contract, their payroll to be in the $330 to $300 million mark, right? So there is some room to spend. So we'll see what the Yankees do. As I mentioned earlier, my final thought is that Hal Steinbrenner in 2024 brought his payroll up to the $330 million mark, roughly, 324 I believe it was. He's shown somewhat of a history to balloon his payroll. Will he do it the year before a lockout? Remains to be seen.
That's when you should do it, right?
You would think, right? Become a World Series champion. Now we deal with the lockout. If you want to secretly root for a salary cap, you go do that after a championship. We'll see.
No one is going to complain unless Aaron Judge never wins a ring. If they go out and they win a ring this year, they aren't going to be like, oh, well, we should have done this earlier. I mean, you'll probably hear it, but it's not going to be like a commonality. I think people would just be respectful to the fact that, hey, Hal, thank you for finally just allowing us to go for it. That's what I think.
I would agree with you. I think this would be the time. Just before a lockout, maybe you put some deferred contracts on the books like an Alex Bregman. Maybe Cody Bellinger agrees to a deferred contract, being that we know it's well reported he wants to return to the Yankees. I don't think it's probably the worst kept secret maybe of all time. So
this is the time for deferred contracts because they are going to squash that shit. They're going to squash it like a bug. So you want to get in. I think
they should. The deferred thing doesn't make sense to me. I don't think.
It doesn't either. So for me either. So you should take advantage of it while it's legal, grandfather it in. That's what you do. But anyway.
That's fair. Yeah, what do we want them to drop in the comment section?
We still got Ninja Hot Dog.
Oh, Ninja Hot Dog. I can't forget. What's up?
What up? Ninja here. I'm making this during the stream because I honestly forgot that there was going to be a stream tonight after the Tuesday one. I see...
Forgot about his boys.
I went into YouTube and it played music. I see you're talking about Fernando Tatis Jr. Honestly, that took me aback when I saw that, but I guess it came from the Michael K. rumor.
It's clickbait.
I think Fernando Tatis Jr. could be a good pickup. Honestly, after the whole Grisham thing, I'll take anyone at this point. But Tatis would be pretty good. He would be pretty good. He would be pretty solid, I would say, just as solid as Bellinger. But if either of them are asking for too much money, I think that could be a good pivot. Obviously, I'm sure you guys still prefer Tucker as well as your first choice. But we have Brian Cashman as our GM. Still, obviously, that won't be happening. But we will see. Also, we non-tender a bunch of players. I saw someone complaining about us not non-tendering Volpe. I don't know if we were or were not able to do that, but if we were able to do that and we just didn't, very disappointing. If we were not able to do that, then that means we have to trade him for scraps. And I say scraps because that's all we can get for Volpe. Volpe is worthless and we need to get rid of him. So that's where I'm at right now. Glaglegger's gone though. Fire Baboon, fire Cashman.
There it is. It's funny looking at the transcript because Fernando Tatis apparently is a really hard transcript name. It says Fernando Tattoos.
Fernando Tattoos Jr.
Yep.
Yeah, I figured, by the way, that Ninja was going to bring up. I just had a feeling the Mark Leiter Jr. situation. I didn't want to watch him again. And mind you, that's with giving him credit for what he did in the 2024 postseason. I was very impressed with what he did, but he was just all over the place this year. It was very Weaver-esque, right? It was. It was a lot of injuries. It was a lot of, I'm in the trainer's room. I'm back on the field. Here I am. Oh, I've got this issue with my leg, right? I'm back. Yep. I'm getting shelled. We didn't know who he was. And that's very difficult to judge a player that's expected to make millions of dollars to be back on your roster. And the Yankees have proven they're going to use their entire bullpen throughout a year, much more than other teams tend to use them. So you've got to be good throughout our entire bullpen. And I thought it was the right move with what they did with him over there with Leiter Jr. So I was happy about
it. Man,
it's $4 million. I know it's not a ton of money in baseball money, but when you're talking about a player of that nature with that type of output, I didn't see it. And Volpe, I think Anthony Volpe, when healthy, will be good at what his role is, which is being a backup shortstop to Caballero. That's what I think the correct position for him is. When he's healthy, we saw periods of time where he was healthy. We saw other periods of time where he very clearly wasn't. When he was healthy, he was a good fielder who still didn't really hit. That's what I think backup shortstops should be. So I'm not upset about Anthony Volpe. I have nothing personal to say about him. But to be a starting shortstop for the Yankees, you need to be a better baseball player than that. And I think now, given his role, I had no problem with the Yankees tendering his contract.
Yeah, no, I get that. I understand people are upset about Volpe, but like it just doesn't make any logical sense, in my opinion, to just get rid of him for scraps. I push back on that. I think he deserves an opportunity to fight for a job with Caballero. He's no longer, because trust me, am I in on him? No. But am I of the belief he needs to go no matter what? I mean, as bad as Volpe's been, it's not like he's Joey Gallo. It's not like he had the worst 500 at-bats in Yankees history. So I think it's important distinction there between like, yeah, okay, he's going to hit 209 and have like a 667 OPS to hitting like 157, offering nothing and being a problem, right? So, yeah, I mean, and Volpe's defense was better at the end of the year as well. The hope is this surgery is going to help him out. But I mean, all expectations of him being something special should be out the window now. That's what I would say. I'd say I have no issue. If you don't like him, I get it. I'm personally not a fan of him, but I'm not out on him like being on the roster. He should be on the 26-man roster. It doesn't make any sense for him not to. So that's where I'm at, Gary.
He reminds me of Tim Hill. Remember, people were upset with Tim Hill, and I said, I think Tim Hill should be what he should be. And what I mean by that is that he should never be in a high leverage situation. He's still a serviceable arm, but if you force him to do something in a situation he has no business in high leverage, you're going to be disappointed, and you might leave the room thinking he's just not a good baseball player. But in reality, it was your mistake putting him in that situation in the first place. That's what I think of Anthony Volpe. I think he's a big leaguer. I think he's a good glove when he's healthy. His big problem this year was throwing the ball. It wasn't accurate. It wasn't strong. We talked about that arm strength all year. We talked about the accuracy all year. That was our real problem with Anthony Volpe, the inconsistency with the glove. You could always use that as the Band-Aid while he wasn't hitting. Well, he wasn't good at either this year. And obviously we know he wasn't healthy as he got that his surgery at the end of the year. He's a backup shortstop. It's what he is. We tender him. I'm not upset about it whatsoever. But Jake, in the comment section, I would like them to drop, how about this? What do you guys individually think? Not in the live chat, because I mean, if you want to, you can do both. Drop in our comment section after we're gone from here. Reload in. Let us know what you think about the idea of bringing in Alex Bregman to this roster, because this is an idea that Jake introduced long ago. You've been talking about this fit. You wanted at that time to ignore his numbers at Yankee Stadium. He's a dead pull hitter. We mentioned at the time probably a better fit at Fenway Park with the short porch. I mean, I wouldn't call it a short porch, but you get the point with the Green Monster to the pull side for a righty. We talked about that fit. He ends up in Boston, exactly where we predicted him to go. But when you go to New York, it's a poke to get the ball out to left field, not so much to right field, where Bregman really doesn't hit the ball too often. I still think it's a really good fit. Contact first guy. Drop in the comment section what you think about Alex Bregman. Before you guys go, please make sure to like the video, Subscribe if you haven't already so you can be involved in our chat. Jake, anything else before we ride?
That's it. I know some people want us to talk about Corey Seager. I personally think we should wait because we just did so much of this and it took us to an hour. So
yeah, we're at a nice round hour. I feel like that will suffice.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, real quick, I would just say I'm probably not for trading for Corey Seager in case we don't end up getting to that next week. It could be a lot of news. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I just think the money, you brought to my attention his injury issues. I personally, if we were going to go shortstop, I would go after your guy, Bo Bichette. I would sign him, then trade prospects to take on more money onto a payroll that we're told that, you have these limitations for a guy that's going to play 95 out of 162 games a year.
Yeah, that's a tough commitment for the Yankees. I think with Stanton on the roster, who we expect to be banged up at some point this year, right? We know Garrett Cole, we know Rodon.
The general manager does, at least. He told us.
The general manager told us himself, I expect him to be hurt. It was a little weird and it was wonky when he gave it to us. But having said that, I think we need to put a little bit more value on players that are more so available. I think that's the best ability. I know when we traded for Giancarlo, he was very available. He played 160 games out of missed 2 games a year, every year for the Marlins, and then he joins our team, healthy for 1 year. It was a problem ever since. So, yeah, I'm probably out on Seager as well. I love the player. It's health related. So drop in the comment section what you guys individually think about Bregman and that fit in pinstripes and what maybe you would do after that. Drop that in the comments. Make sure you guys subscribe. And before you guys go, make sure you like the video.